Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Piper Report. I'm in the process right now of making a video on the Illinois, essentially bankruptcy of the state, and it is very important. It is going to be a video not like this, a screen capture monologue, but a video that's going to be edited properly, and it's really important that I make it because what most people don't understand is that the Illinois issue happening in that state with their economy could potentially lead to socialism. I know that sounds crazy, but there actually is quite the case. So I'm working on that. I've done quite a few videos today, so this will be my last one. But I found this one, and I find this just disgusting. We all know Susan Rice is essentially a criminal. That the real crime between Trump and Russia is nothing but an obscurity. They're trying to obscure the real crimes that's happening in the country between the Obama administration and his corrupt administration. His corrupt cabinet members, if you will. It should be noted before I begin this one that Obama promised to be the most transparent administration in history, yet he has the record for denying the most Freedom of Information Act requests. His whole cabinet members were a bunch of corrupt criminals. Once again, we see more of this corruption. We see more of this collusion and this unethical behavior here. So here's the article. Sealing and transfer of Susan Rice records angers House committee investigating unmasking. House Intelligence Committee sources say career officials at the National Security Council are slow-walking the delivery of subpoenaed records on former NSA Susan Rice's handling of classified information and the unmasking of Trump campaign workers. Material from the Russian hacking probe that middle-level NCS managers claim was transferred to President Obama's library and could remain closed to the public for 5 years. Transferred to Obama's personal library. Not only that, if the president chooses so, Obama in this case, he could keep them closed for up to 14 years. I think there's still stuff from John F. Kennedy's personal library that we still haven't seen yet. Does this not seem that they are obstructing justice here? They want to say Trump is the bad one, that Trump administration did obstruction of justice? Look at this. Look at Susan Rice. Look at Obama. This is the epitome of obstruction of justice. One source, speaking only on the condition of anonymity, called the transfer curious and appeared to reflect an effort by former administration officials to obscure evidence on whether Ms. Rice and other top officials in Obama White House illegally tried to identify which Trump campaign and transition aides have been caught up in the U.S. intelligence intercepts of Russian interference in the presidential race. Again, that is completely an allegation. No evidence has been proven yet. Most recently, Trey Gowdy was interviewing or interrogating Jay Johnson at a House hearing, and Jay Johnson also admitted that there was no proof, no evidence that the Trump administration colluded with Russia. So we have now heard from Dianne Feinstein, we've heard from James Comey, we've heard from the vice or the deputy director of the FBI. We've heard, I think even Pelosi might have said it once. We hear this all the time from top government officials. James Clapper said it too. There is no evidence of collusion, yet the narrative keeps on. It's Trump. Trump's collude with Russia, but now it's Trump's obstructing. Trump obstructed James Comey. Yet when we have evidence right here, that was Susan Rice that did the exact same thing. That that Loretta Lynch has done very similar things as well. The two high-level intelligence committee sources told the Washington Times that they are confident the panel's investigators, despite the delays, will eventually get their hands on the records shipped to a heavily secured archive for Obama's yet-to-be-built presidential library. A spokesman at the NSC would not directly address questions on the Rice case, saying only that the council staff is still in the process of reviewing record requests to ensure that any executive privilege concerns are taken into account. Ah yes, executive privilege concerns, like willfully hiding evidence of a crime, possibly. The spokesman, Michael Anton, said the Intelligence Committee subpoenas were not submitted directly to the NSC, but to other agencies within the U.S. intelligence community. He did not respond to requests for specifics on which agencies. The Obama Presidential Library in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, declined to comment Thursday on the handling of Ms. Rice's documents. So of course they did. They're part of it. They're in the cover-up. Representative David Nunes, a California Republican and chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, has been an outspoken proponent of the panel's focus on the unmasking allegations. He also declined to comment. Likewise, so has Rand Paul, because Rand Paul wanted to make sure that he was not unmasked, that he was not monitored, that he was not spied on by this corrupt past administration. Tom Fitton, president of the legal activist group Judicial Watch, said the sealing of unmasking records was an example of how U.S. intelligence agencies are stonewalling. It was first revealed in a recent FOIA exchange between Judicial Watch and the NCS that the records had been moved to the Obama's Library Secure Archive. Having to subpoena this information indicates the insanity of a situation when the nation's top intelligence agencies are withholding information, basic information, that could bring to an end the controversy raging across this country, Mr. Fitton said in an interview Thursday. He said he is considering other legal options to obtain the records. I think it is pertinent and imperative that we view those records, that we are able to look at those records. Because if there was a crime done, it is up to the government to expose that. It is up to the government to treat everyone equally under the law. Now, I know that concept seems malleable, and that concept seems foreign to most people ever since Hillary Clinton got off on what she said was clear incompetence and ignorance of the law. She didn't know what she was doing was wrong, therefore it can't be wrong. When has ignorance of the law ever been a justifiable defense of the law? How many of you have been pulled over speeding and you had no idea you were speeding? Can you tell the cop, I didn't know the speed limit changed? No. He'd tell you to shut up and give you a ticket. But if you're Hillary Clinton, things aren't like that. You get to get off with a warning and a sad face and say, like with a cloth? We are having to sue to get basic information, he said. It is a shell game of documents being shifted over to the library. These documents are the smoking gun that investigators are looking for, and everyone knows it. Mr. Fitton said President Trump could get the Rice records himself. They are restricted access, he said, but there are ways that he could get them because they are executive branch records and he can get them. I really doubt that. Do you think if Trump would even request them that they'd be granted? How many intelligence agencies in the community are hiding stuff from Trump? Do you really think Trump has control of his intelligence services? I don't. The deep state's at work, and no, it's not conspiracy to say so. In March, Ms. Rice admitted to requesting the unmasking of the names of some Americans redacted in raw intelligence reports on the U.S. surveillance intercepts, but argued the requests were well within her job duties as National Security Advisor and were in no way driven by political motivations to know which figures from the Trump campaign were being discussed. Yeah, that sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me. Because when you think, was Hillary's campaign monitored? Were her communications tampered with? I don't think so. Remember, John Podesta has ties with Russian banks. Hillary sold Russia 20% of the U.S. uranium. Bill Clinton received $500,000 for doing a speech in Russia. Why did an Obama administration and his cabinet officials monitor and spy on Hillary Clinton campaign? Why only Donald Trump campaign? You can preach bipartisanship or you can preach impartiality all you want, but the fact is there is no evidence of that. All their evidence is that the Obama administration, working with its close allies in the intelligence services, tried to destroy the Trump presidency before it even began. It's kind of funny, too, when you find all this stuff out, all these leaked materials come out that try to denigrate Trump and his performance as president. So it's funny that these justifiable reasonings they use for monitoring illegally the Trump administration are all of a sudden being leaked to the media, and yet people still want to claim that the Obama administration and his cabinet members and officials that work for him are innocent in this affair? I really think not. Mr. Trump on Twitter has repeatedly complained that the unmasking efforts and the Obama White House handling of the Russian hacking probe have not received sufficient attention in the various investigations on Capitol Hill and by Justice Department Special Counsel Robert Mueller. That would make sense. Robert Mueller has close ties to James Comey. On May 31st, Republicans and Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee issued a series of subpoenas related to the Russia investigations. 3 of the subpoenas, sent to intelligence community agencies, sought records relating to alleged unmasking requests made by senior Obama administration figures, including Ms. Rice, CIA Director John Brennan, and U.S. Ambassador to the UN Samantha Power. Democrats want the probes to stay tightly focused on possible obstruction of justice by Mr. Trump and collusion between his associates and the Kremlin. The U.S. intelligence community has unanimously concluded that the Kremlin was behind an organized cyber attack campaign to interfere in the U.S. election and undermine the candidacy of Democratic Hillary Clinton last year. With that now, first off, it's very careful to read between the lines right here. When you read this, the U.S. intelligence community has unanimously concluded that the Kremlin was behind an organized cyber attack campaign to interfere in the U.S. election. That does not mean that the Kremlin hacked the DNC and gave it to WikiLeaks. In fact, it's most likely Seth Rich was the leaker of DNC. It's also interesting to note that why didn't the DNC allow the FBI to look at their servers after the supposed leak? Even Jay Johnson recently said when he was being interrogated by Trey Gowdy that he was surprised. He didn't. This is Jay Johnson, who actually donated to the Hillary Clinton campaign. He said that he had no idea why the DNC would not let the FBI look at their servers. Well, I think it's obvious. Because there is collusion, there is corruption in the DNC, and they didn't want that corruption being dispersed to the American people. This whole notion that Russia hacked the election, that Russia changed the voting tallies, that Russia hacked the DNC, gave it to WikiLeaks, is far-fetched. Yes, I'm sure there was an attempt by Russia to hack the election, just like the U.S. does to every single country out there, including our allies, as Edward Snowden has recently released. Every major country operates in this nefarious and surreptitious behavior. This is nothing new. This is nothing sinister. This is what we do on a daily basis. So they try to make Russia as the big bad bears here, doing unspeakable acts, things that no one can even possibly fathom because they're so sinister in their context. It's complete bullshit. The U.S. does it too. But since the Russia probes launched early this year, Mr. Trump and his aides have argued that the real scandal lies elsewhere. They contend that senior Obama administration officials, including Ms. Rice, inappropriately unmasked and perhaps illegally leaked to the media the names of Trump campaign officials swept up in the hacking probe, and failed to take sufficient steps to stop the hacking once it was uncovered. Judicial Watch sent a FOIA request to the NCS in April seeking records concerning Mrs. Rice's communications on a range of subjects. NSC Access Management Director John Powers responded on May 23rd, roughly a week before the House Intelligence Committee began seeking the records. Documents from the Obama administration have been transferred to the Obama Presidential Library, Mr. Powers wrote. You may send your request to the Obama Library. However, you should be aware that under the Presidential Records Act, presidential records remain closed to the public for 5 years after administration has left office. Well, isn't that convenient? So the possible proof, the possible evidence of the Obama administration doing illicit activity, and Ms. Rice doing illicit activity, and Samantha Powers doing illicit activity is denied from public viewing for at least 5 years. And Obama could even increase that if he wanted to, up to 14 years. That sounds very, very convenient to me. I think that is obstruction of justice. That is far more obstructing justice than the Donald Trump quote to James Comey that I hope you end this investigation because Michael Flynn's a good guy. Far worse here. But you'll never hear the liberal media make any type of these claims. They are pinpointed, their attacks, their aspersions directly onto Trump and his administration. It is a sad, sad breach of ethics, a sad tale of hypocrisy, and it should be weaving out. It should be perceived by everyone, and everyone should be treated fairly under the law. An Obama administration, in my mind, most of them should be in jail for their corruption, their collusion, their illicit activities, and their surreptitious activities. And I'm done.